we're a campus full of depressed people. Like, that's what we are, essentially, is the University of Chicago is just a bunch of mentally ill kids all thinking that they're the only ones. And I think that is the biggest thing, is just the silence. And who's going to start breaking it?
I didn't know anybody who went to a mental institution before I went. And then I see 2 people who went to my school in there. Then when I get out, I find out more people who went there. It makes you feel so alone when you're in there, and that you're sort of this anomaly and like an embarrassment to your school. And then you see a couple other people in there and you're like, wait, this is sort of strange. Like, makes you realize that there's not a problem with you, there's a problem with our society and our school.
Sometimes when you call Lakeshore Hospital, they're like, this is the University of Chicago Lakeshore Hospital. And I'm like, I'm sorry, what? And they're like, Lakeshore Hospital. I'm like, oh no. Like, I mean, a lot of the doctors there really like are proud that they're affiliated with the University of Chicago. Like, you can talk to them and they'll be like, the University of Chicago, like, we treat so many of you here. Like, it's like a fucking like dorm. It's like campus north, like all the way up at Lawrence, like.
I was hospitalized at Lakeshore in October of 2013, and I had attempted suicide the day prior to my hospitalization, and my friends actually walked me the day I was hospitalized to student counseling services. I signed a release to willingly have myself placed in the hospital, and then they brought out an ambulance, which is apparently mandatory, and they drove me up. And from there, they have like an hours long bureaucratic like papers filling out, going through all of the insurance. I wasn't actually placed into like the hospital section where I had like a bed or anything like that for a couple of hours. After all the paperwork, they do the strip search, or the orifice check as they call it, and once they had made sure that I was okay, they took all my clothes. Well, we stopped being people who have autonomy over our bodies and ourselves. We're just these liabilities, and if we want to find strength in who we are, that's not allowed. Yeah. And I used to sneak food out of the kitchens all the time. That was like probably my biggest thing, is how to take things back, break the rules. So, but that's I think that's how they treat people, and that's what it feels like being in a hospital, is you're not a person. Might as well give you a number instead of a name, like, honestly.
It's sort of like the creepy asylums you see in horror movies. Everything was kind of grimy. There was this layer of oldness about everything. So on a Wednesday morning, I got up early and went to student counseling services, and I talked the counselor on call there through what I was feeling, which was mainly just like bad depression, suicidal ideation, no plans, just ideation. And then she asked me if I wanted to go to the hospital, and I thought she meant like the emergency room, but I did not know that what the counselor actually meant was a psychiatric hospital where you don't have as much agency as you do in a normal hospital, in like a normal emergency room. And the next thing I know, there was an ambulance, which I didn't think I needed, and 2 people from the ambulance brought in a wheelchair and tried to strap me into that. A dean on call came with me. But in talking to her, just after talking to her, I felt completely fine. I didn't want to be admitted. I couldn't contact my parents. They had no idea I was in the hospital or that I was going into the hospital. I couldn't call them. They took away all of my stuff. And they didn't say where it was going. They didn't say whether I'd get it back. A series of people came in and sort of evaluated me. I had no idea who they were. I didn't know why they were asking me the questions they were asking. I felt very much not like a person and much more like some sort of object or some sort of like animal, I guess. I guess I just felt like some numbered patient.
When I was taken to Lakeshore, I don't really remember much because it was that traumatic. In the middle of what I recognize now as a manic episode, on the street, not on campus, and the UCPD had found me, and from what I remember, they essentially put me in cuffs and took me to the emergency room. And I just remember like waking up with like bruises on my body, and it was just sort of ironic because it's like they wanted my body to look as bad as my mind, to be as like bruised as my mind, and like how messed up my mind was. I was not being disruptive, I was not aggressive. I just said, I don't feel like I want to go to this place. And they were very aggressive, and they put me in handcuffs and put me on a stretcher. And that was, not only was it humiliating and dehumanizing, but it also like really hurt. And like in a purely physical way, it hurt. And just not considering all the emotional ways it hurt, like I just had so many bruises on my body that didn't go away for like several days.
I think that just the regular shit that trans women deal with, I mean, I don't even want to talk about it because like the mundane violences of being a trans woman, like if somebody, like there's a million trans women who have circulated their narratives of trauma, it's like, it's not even worth repeating, and it doesn't actually move anyone. People like to feel bad about what happens to trans women. So it's like, if I'm like telling you about like, you know, like all of the shit, right? Like someone watching this is going to be like, wow, that's a lot of shit. And like, it doesn't really matter.
And it's like really terrifying to be just stuck in a soulless white walled mental hospital with no idea of when you're going to be allowed to leave. And you like basically give up all of your rights as soon as you get there, and you're just like, okay, well now I'm just stuck with no communication with the outside world and like nothing to do. I'm going to be here forever. So, yeah, fun. Like I spend most of my stay at Lakeshore on like the floor where like nothing goes on. So I really have no idea about what they do on like the floor that has activities.
Fourth floor is people who are not like actively hurting themselves or actively hurting others or like too deluded beyond reality. So I was there on my first day because I had talked about having hallucinations, which is a symptom of my anxiety levels. And that floor had people who were murderers, people who thought that like airplanes were going to fall out of the sky and try to bomb them. So there was this very wide range of like individuals. And then there was just some people who like had cognitive disabilities and just happened to like have gotten violent one day. So this wide range of just new intakes.
When I was moving down to the second floor, someone was being moved from the second floor to the fourth floor because they had gotten a hold of some markers and scribbled all over the walls. And I can't imagine like the pain and confusion that people must be in, but there was no one trying to help them. All that we heard was, you know, code this, code that, code yellow, code white.
Code white means somebody's trying to kill somebody. Code yellow means aggressive patient. Code blue means, I think escape attempt is code blue. I got 2 code yellows on me. Because I'm a fucking rebel! you're gonna put me in the men's wing, I'm gonna call you a slut. And that's kind of what I did. I was like, hey, I'm gonna fucking, they like have a number posted. It's like, if you think you're experiencing like blah, 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 call the patient advocate line. But it's like, no one has ever in the history of Earth called the patient advocate line. It's like you fucking call someone in some room in the hospital who's like immediately tells like the fucking people who you're trying to run from that you called them. Like, it's like obviously a trick. Like, I don't even know, it's probably just goes to a voicemail. But it's funny, I was like, I'm gonna call my friends and I'm gonna get a lawyer and I'm gonna sue you. And I'll strut out of my fucking scrubs, like thinking I'm hot shit and also like crazy. And then all of a sudden they're like, the same person who was just fighting with goes, code yellow, ITU 3, or what floor is I on? ITU 4, ITU whatever. And I'm like, I wonder what that's about. Like, I guess somebody's being aggressive. Like, not me. Like, I'm being self-righteous. And then I like, 20 hours later I wake up and I was like, that was a weird experience. Like, I did not consent to that shot. But that's the psych ward. That's how it is. I woke up in a different room too, which is kind of weird. I don't know how that happened. But I also wasn't even in the women's wing. They just moved me to like the closest room in the men's wing to the women's wing. I was like, literally, you have just like fucking like spatialized trans womanhood perfectly. Like, you're like, yeah, we'll let you get close, but like that's for the pussy girls. Like that's for the fish.
The third floor, which I was not on, is basically people who have no contact with reality. They give them the shots to sedate them. You can hear the screamings of people on the third floor from the fourth floor and from the second floor. The second floor is for, I guess, the more normal people in the mental hospital. So dual diagnosis people who have like depression and anxiety and drug abuse aspect, or people who just have like depression.
They promised to move me down to the second floor my first day there. And then nobody ever came to see me or move me. Like, they just, like, it's like they just forgot I was there.
They told me there was a university student unit, and that does not actually exist. From what I found out, going to the second floor, I talked to a nurse, said, hey, I'm supposed to be in this university unit. They said, it's not real, and we're not going to put you in Vallejo because you're supposed to be in this not real unit. And then a couple days passed, and I asked to be put in Vallejo again, and they said that it was too late for me to be there. And I have heard of times where Vallejo they decided not to open up that wing at all. So a lot of the LGBT patients just didn't have a separate group at all.
I had multiple higher like administrators in the hospital visit me in my room, be like, we just wanted to let you know that we have the best experience here that you can. And I was like, at this point they had already fucked me up so bad I had lost my mind. So I was like, who are you people? Like, let me die.
There was someone on the second floor with me who had hormone replacement therapy, or HRT, and she was consistently being called he by the nurses on the floor, denied the medications that she needed. People would actually try to rally around and fight for her to get her meds, and just the sheer lack of like respect from the nurses was really difficult to handle.
When they called up. They were like, we've got somebody who's like gonna fuck her shit up and like cost us a lot of money, and like said, don't threaten to sue. And like, not that I even could have. What the fuck? Like, what a false threat. But like, I think because I'm white, they thought I actually could. They're like, oh shit, like this bitch has a lawyer. Woo! But then they sent this dude to my room and was like, everything is fine. Like, we just want you to have the best day imaginable. Like, we're gonna transfer you rooms, like, to the women's wing. Like, everything will be fine. And then they literally just did it. They just like came in, like, they came in like right after that, like the person, like I overheard him in the hallways, like, yeah, like they were also misgendering me, but they're like, yeah, like I don't think he's doing okay. I think we should just do it. And I'm like, and then some nurse comes in and is like, you want a pill or a shot? And I'm like, bitch, are you serious? And I kind of look at her and I go, do I even have a choice? And she's like, the shot works faster.
I kept asking to talk to the psychiatrist, but every time he came in to see me, which I think was twice, maybe 3 times the entire time, he only talked to me for like 5 minutes.
I think I may have saw the psychiatrist for a few minutes on the first full day that I was there. And that was when he first brought up taking Prozac. He didn't really consider any other options, didn't really even consider my diagnosis, just sort of saw me, diagnosed me with major depressive disorder, and said that we'll start you off on like 60 mil of Prozac right away, which is unusual for what I've heard. I didn't see him again for another couple of days, and by then I had been moved floors, so I guess they must have been confused, but even then I only saw him like every couple days that I was in there. So, and each time he just bumped up my Prozac, so I saw him for 5 minutes, told him I was still feeling sad, and then he would just bump up my medication again.
When will I get to see a doctor who will, tell me that I can leave? And they're just like, oh, we don't know.
Every morning when it was medications time, we all lined up like sheep at this counter, and they would slide a little cup with a bunch of pills in it over the counter, and you would just take them.
If I go off my meds, my brain like zaps me like every 30 seconds, and I just feel like nothing is real. And I just get like really bad withdrawal and like get really sick. It's like, that should not happen.
Like, I remember one time I was talking with a nurse. I told her I felt very uncomfortable going to one of my groups. And I had gone to every other group on time. I was very diligent about that. And she had said that, and I told her that I was uncomfortable going to this group because I had experienced sexual violence in this group. I don't exactly remember the details of it, but it made me feel very uncomfortable. And she said, well, I'm just gonna have to take your privileges away. So no trauma-informed care at all. It was just this sort of one-size-fits-all approach, not even meant at stabilizing people.
I mean, we really believe, and this is something that I think is very particular for University of Chicago students, just based on the discourse around hospitals that exists in that space, is that hospitals care for people, and that a criticism of a hospital is a criticism of a fundamental human impulse to care. Doctors don't care about a single damn person in the psych ward, right? Doctors exercise power. That's what they're doing. Some doctors feel good about it. Some doctors feel guilty about it. Some doctors, they feel all sorts of ways, but they're still exercising the power, right? They're always going to exercise the power. Chicago Lakeshore, they just got bought out a couple years ago by a different hospital company that owns multiple psych wards in different states. It's literally a psych ward conglomerate.
Millions of people in the world today are affected by behavioral, mental, and substance abuse disorders.
Their website is super unhelpful. They're like, are you interested in a psychiatric evaluation? It's is this the Church of Scientology?
Early interventions and appropriate treatment can greatly improve outcomes, but medical experts say
we're love to tell you how fucked up you are and what diagnoses you might have, and also make you come here and give us your insurance money.
Today, Aurora Behavioral Healthcare System has an arsenal of medical weapons designed to help people overcome these health conditions and reclaim their lives.
When you say, oh, I don't want to adjust your medication mid-quarter, that sends the message, your academic success is what I value about you, and not your happiness or even just stability. Which is not a message you want to send to someone who's really depressed or super anxious or etc., but they do it anyway. So
the idea of achievement and competition being something that makes you who you are, that makes you worthy. You have people sort of competing over how many hours they stayed in the library or how many hours they studied or how awful their life is. And that culture of negativity is one thing I think that contributes to feelings of depression or just negative feelings in general. The constant stress on getting good grades, getting a good job, getting a good internship, having the best resume, all of this, taking the hardest classes you can possibly take, all of this just contributes to the idea that you are only worth as much as your academic record says you are.
I was in a gender studies class where someone was talking about hypothetical, what if you had not only just a mental illness, we were talking about physical disabilities too, and everyone kept talking about this hypothetical as if no one in the room had had a mental illness or no one in the room had ever been physically injured in some way. I raised my hand and I said, what if someone does have these issues? How would you approach it then? Instead of just this hypothetical. And people were like, well, you don't. Like, you just don't have this issue.
What the University of Chicago does to like maintain that profit flow is they have this like idea of good patients and bad patients, right? They have this idea of the South Side, which is like understood as this sort of like black like profit drain for them. That's how they understand it, and it's like it's gross and it's nasty, and they understand anything or any type of illness that they can't turn a profit on as a threat to their like sort of fundamental structure.
I had to end up going back home after receiving anonymous threats from fellow students on campus that were not addressed by the university adequately. And the dean of students in the college, he ended up emailing my parents that my social media activity was contraindicatory to my treatment. He said that it would not be effective for my treatment to be posting on social media, and I do not think it's a coincidence that it was my criticism of him that sparked this. In the fall of 2015, a year after he essentially sent me those emails and my parents those emails, he said that I had been administratively withdrawn from the university, which was not a part of university policy. It was only then and after I had garnered over 1,500 signatures on a petition I created to get me back into school and get the school to follow basic policy and treat me like a human being that I was let back into school.
Anyone who condemns the psych ward wholesale is denying like the multiple forms of like life and resistance and beauty that exist in that space, and you should be incredibly skeptical of them. As someone who's experienced like a great deal of trauma in a psych ward, I speak from experience, and I've also known people who've had a wonderful time in the psych ward. It's a complex place, and we'll never understand it as much as we want to, but you don't just kill something you don't understand. As much as I believe that the psych ward shouldn't exist, it does. That's what I'd say.
The first person I befriended was actually someone else who had been diagnosed with a personality disorder, which I later was diagnosed with after getting out of the hospital. So we were just sort of the two kids talking to each other and being like, look, man, we'll get out of this together. This one woman had a tattoo on her arm that was supposed to say strong, but the tattoo artist had left out the R. And she was just like, stay strong, and just like pointing at her arm. while on the phone screaming at her husband for wanting to divorce her while she's in the hospital. So she's like, stay strong, you mother. Like, so it was, I mean, that was like the rapport that we all had with each other. Like, when someone else had left a few days before, we had also just been like, stay strong, guys, stay strong, get out of here. So.
One of my friends in the psych ward was just like sitting in group, because you do a lot of group therapy in the psych ward, but it's not group therapy. You sit in a circle and you're all like, they call it group therapy, but you're all in your fucking jumpsuit, right? Like, and you're sitting around in a circle, and there's this person who calls himself a mental health counselor, but is literally just like the highest ranking guard on the floor. And he sits there and he sort of invokes each person to sort of like speak a little bit of their trauma or a little bit of narrative or something, or how they're feeling, right? Really what you're supposed to say is like how like psychotic you are, how weird you are. And I have a friend who was like, I feel fucking beautiful today. Like, I feel amazing in here. Like, I am like so alive and I feel so good. And another patient stands up, walks over, and just punches her in the face twice. Just socks her like right in the face. And everyone's sort of stunned, right? Because it's like, you say you're pretty and you get punched, right? You say you're ugly, which isn't how you feel. It's what everybody wants to hear. Everybody smiles and moves on.
I met another woman who was fighting with her landlord because the people upstairs were making a lot of noise. She was a black woman, and she just got really angry one day at them. And they called the police, and her daughter, in a moment of desperation, said, "Don't arrest her, she's crazy. Take her to the hospital." And it was just because of her daughter pleading that they didn't take her to jail, they took her to the hospital.
Never involve the police if you can help it. Like, I think that goes without saying, but even if they're a white dude, like, you just don't know what's gonna happen. Like, and the worst thing ever is like being cuffed. Like, that's just like, you don't want to be cuffed at any point during this. Like, you don't want to be cuffed, you don't want to be put in the back of a squad car, you don't want any of that shit to happen. Like, always visit your friends, because it's like, it really like, for what it really helps is like when the guards see that someone is there visiting you, the nurses, when they see there's someone there visiting you, they tend to understand, they tend to like respond to your complaints differently.
I also heard a lot of people talking about this agreement that if you sign, they can't keep you for more than 5 business days, but they don't tell you that. And I only found out through another patient who said she had signed it.
You want to sign a 5-day discharge, which essentially says that after 5 days, they're legally obligated to release you, and the only way they can keep you is if they bring you before a judge, and a judge rules you're insane, and they can keep you for like a couple more days, which never happens, because like for them it costs a ton of money of like legal fees, so they'll always let you go.
And I think that there needs to be training among professors for like how to handle students who have mental health issues. And I have a friend who's a Harper fellow, and some of her colleagues have complained about students having mental health issues and who've emailed them asking for extensions and stuff like that, and saying like it's not their issue if a student commits suicide, it's not their issue if a student is feeling super depressed because of their class. And like, if Harper fellows who are like younger postdocs are saying this, like what are the older professors saying?
I mean, I've met other students who have been in Lakeshore, and we always come up with the same experience, that we were scared. We had no idea when we were getting out. The psychiatrist talked to us for maybe 5 minutes a visit, that we didn't know what we were taking, and that we felt scared.
I think I would say, if you're trans, very few of you probably will be watching this, you shouldn't be scared of the psych ward. It's no worse than any other space you've been in your life, and like, the cis women around you are going to tell you it's much worse, but it's not. It's something you can handle, and it's dangerous, but it will help you get a grip on reality, and it'll help you save your life if you need it, and it's much better to be in that psych ward than to not have a body.
It was really hard. I don't know how I made it through that first quarter at all, but I did, surprisingly.
Okay, like, you were in the hospital, so clearly you were just not in your right mind and cannot know what you need, and it's like, no. Like,
basically just respecting us as people and like not trying to assert your dominance over us, or like I feel like a lot of people at Lakeshore just got high off of power there. Like they just thought it was cool that they could boss around a bunch of crazy people, and like that's pretty messed up, and that's not a reason to be in mental health care.
In the neighborhood, they yell at us although they know they really should.